Good morning, let's go do a farm tour. Let's head out to the flower field, which is now veggie and flower field. We're doing this very early in the morning, it's about 7 a.m. The field. I had planned to clean everything up, mow between the rows and do everything else before I brought you out here, but we had a heap of rain yesterday and I just haven't had time. So you're going to get a very realistic tour of how things really look. And we've got a couple of little cool things to show you. So there's a grass, it's actually a flower that I'm trialing as a grass, and I also want to show you what cotton looks like as a little plant. And I was very surprised by that, so I'll show you that later. Let's get into it now. You're watching this right in the middle of our summer. However, today it's a little bit chilly. It's around 15 degrees out here right now. So I do feel a bit cold, and I am going to go through my outfit in another video, but this is what I wear in the field to keep myself protected from the sun. I have the leggings, the UV rashi, and I've usually got a hat on. I don't have it on yet because it's not sunny yet. With a flap on the back, I have arm protectors because everything's always too short on my arms, so it just protects my wrists, and gloves, and I wear long socks, and I have shoes on with boot protectors on. So I'm looking like a ninja out here usually, but for the purpose of this video, we're going to get it done before the sun hits the patch. And as you can see, we're in an amazing location. We are in the southern end of Australia. We're in a state called Victoria. We have higher than average rainfall where we are here, and it's a lot colder. It's one of the cooler zones in Australia. There's one zone colder than us, which means we get a really nice frost season, so we can grow a lot of those flowers and plants that require a cold period of cold, and we get all 4 seasons, like fairly distinct seasons. Our shoulder seasons, autumn and spring, can be quite short and can be kind of hard to time. So sometimes that throws our flowers off, which is what's happened this year again, not as bad as previous years. We are surrounded by windbreaks, just natural ones. The field itself is down in a little bit of a basin. Not good when it floods, but it is really, really good most of the time, protecting us from the wind. And we've got the natural windbreak all around us of the gum trees, which is also amazing. And it means that we don't have to stake, we really don't have to stake much here at all, or support or use flower net. But that is a little disclaimer. You'll see most of our flowers that others will stake or support or flower net. You'll see that we haven't done that. And it's not me saying you don't need to do that. It just means that in our particular area, in most cases, we don't need to do it. So that's why we're not doing it. Let's get into the video. You can see that sunshine is about to pop out across the top of that tree, and then it will start filling up the field. First thing to note is we've got this fencing. It is temporary. It's just attached to all the farm posts that mark the ends of each bed. And it's here because we have a bit of an issue with rabbits and kangaroos and wallabies, and they come in and they want to eat our flowers. And we do have plans to have a farm fence around the whole area. It'll be out from there a fair bit, a few meters off the actual field, but it's just taking us a bit of time to get that done. And we have some amazing people who have bought me a coffee over at Buy Me a Coffee, and that money's actually going towards fence posts. So I think I've got about $300 in there to put towards fence posts, which is amazing. And it is going to happen, it just hasn't happened yet, especially now the season's started. You can go back to some of our other videos, especially the live. The most recent live, I explain why I'm now doing almost full-time work here on the farm, out on the field. Our roles have sort of changed. My husband is now doing gardening consulting and he's not in the field as much. So it's kind of cut back how much time we've got for some really big projects throughout the summer. We may not get that fencing done until winter. Our ground is also very full of rocks and very hard. So putting fence posts in right now isn't ideal. But our solution for now, this is just bird netting from Bunnings. It is, I'll put it up on the screen, the size that I bought. It doesn't seem like it'd be good for fencing, but it actually stretches out. And so we've just wrapped it around the edge. The thing that's actually happened, which has been great, is we haven't had any snakes in here this season, and it's because they can't get through this net. And if they tried, they'd get stuck. So it has actually been a huge peace of mind and quite amazing that they can't get in. So we are considering running the same net along the bottom of the fencing when we do get it up, just because it's so nice not to have snakes in here. But it is going to be such a wide area, it may not keep them out, but for now it's really nice. So the layout of our flower field is, I will pop a drone up so you can see, but this plot here is plot 1, the middle one is plot 2, and that N1 on the right is plot 3, and then each row is a number, like 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we're talking about plot 1 row 4, it's up in here. And that's really helped Moroni and I communicate with each other about, so when we're not on the field, we're communicating about where to put things or what's coming out. And that's how we make sure each other are on the same page and we know where we're doing work if we're not out here together. Let's go through some of the flowers. In plot 1, we have 4 rows of dahlias and they've actually started to bloom, which is beautiful. So this is Cliff Salmon. She's very lovely. I've got a lot of Cliff Salmon in. Laney's Joy hasn't bloomed yet. Oh, and then I've got these, and somebody did identify these for me. Was it Mariner? I'm sorry, I can't remember what that is now. A couple more we've got blooming. Just a burgundy ball. Don't know what it is. This one I love. It is so gorgeous. Look how tiny it is. It's called Wendy's Place. So pretty. This is Seagull. She usually gets very, very long stems that tower out sort of to my height. So that will happen as the season goes on. Dratchenberg opening up, and there's a few here that have opened up. I really like Dratchenberg. Cactuses don't last as long in a bouquet, but this is just such a pretty colour. We've got a heap of Mexico, which I was trying not to plant, but I think I've mixed it in amongst here. This is one that I lost the label of. It's a pretty pink one. It's actually a really beautiful, long-lasting vase flower, a bit more Mexico. There's not a lot that's flowered in row 3. We've got Venetian. At this point, quite short stems. I need to come in, and if you don't know already, when you're cutting dahlias, you want to cut quite low. Even if you don't need a stem that long, cut low for the first cuts, and then you can trim your stem later. It's going to send a message to the plant to shoot up long stems close to the base, and that's what you want. So make sure those first cuts are very low. And then my absolute most favorite dahlia of all time is Avalanche, and she's started to bloom. Sunflower row that's finishing off, and just up there we've got some status and it's finishing off as well. We're going to rip all this out. It'll be a clean row soon. This is our last feverfew succession that we've been cutting from. This little area here I am just going to cut off fairly close to the ground, let them reshoot. The next section that's sort of almost pulled out, so they're almost out, I've actually been using these to take cuttings. If you go back a few videos ago, I've got a video on how to propagate feverfew from cuttings, and it is a much quicker way to get your feverfew successions. I kind of feel like it's easier to do as well. You're just taking cuttings, popping them in soil, and they take root really fast, and then you pop them in the ground and the plant takes off really fast. So that is what I've been doing here. I've just been taking them off, cleaning it up. Oops. Just clean that stem up. You need to take all that off, and you poke it in the soil. You want to make sure the cutting is one that hasn't got a flower bud on it and a flower bud isn't developing. But this little section here I'm yet to pull out because I'm planting basil through here. Unfortunately, basil does not like the cold, and we're in the middle of a cold snap. There's some tiny little plants in there. I've got the cinnamon basil and we'll have the lemon basil. So that'll go in that section where these are coming out, and then I'll just leave that little section of feverfew there. And this is a feverfew row that is just about to come up. It is still a little while away, and some of those stems are too short. I'll just snip them off and we just wait for the plants to catch up a little bit. So it does unfortunately mean we have a gap in feverfew, which is a little bit hilarious considering that feverfew video that I did. I was talking about how easy it is to succession the feverfew, but because I was so focused on preparing all the different beds of feverfew for that video at all the different stages, I actually missed putting in our next succession of feverfew. So we've got a gap, and it'll be a gap of about a month. So that does suck a little bit. This bed I really need to weed out. It's actually on my list for today. But what it is Canterbury bells. And these went in autumn last season. So at the end of last season, these went in the ground. They were very tiny. And they've just been sitting here. It's a biannual, so it's going to sit through a season. Oh, you can see that something's eaten that. But they haven't eaten anything else on this row, so it makes me think they didn't like it, which is good. So we're in summer now, and it'll probably sit through another winter and just continue to grow, and then flower in spring. But the seasons are all over, not the seasons are all over the place, but the weather in the seasons is all over the place. So we're just watching to see what happens at this point. Who knows? So this flower has been a really cool experiment. It is a Marguerite daisy, and the variety is Colourway Eye. And it has these massive big button heads, which I think are so cute. And it's got quite, I mean, it's not an enormously tall plant, but it's tall enough in a smaller bouquet or arrangement to pop these out over the top of the other flowers like a little twinkle. And it's been really easy to grow. It did take a long time to actually get going, but once it did get going, it's just been constantly producing. The next couple of rows are veggie rows. We have decided to put our vegetables out here. It is getting really, really cold. I'm sorry if the wind is blowing on my mic. That's not going to be a pain in the butt. It became kind of tedious to have our vegetable patch over at the house and then all the flowers out here. We were kind of watering in two major areas every day, and at this point we don't have irrigation set up. We're still hand watering. So I convinced Moroni to put all the veggies out here in the flower field, and he wasn't very excited about that to begin with. He didn't want to lose rows to vegetables, but now he's loving it, and he's eating his cucumbers every day, and we're eating zucchinis, and we're about to have tomatoes. So he's realized the taste of these vegetables is amazing compared to the store. So this is now a flower and veggie field, which I am loving. I think it's amazing. You can see the wind is really starting to take off up there. I can feel it. I mean, I'm standing, my shoulders feel cold. I'm standing a bit taller than the flowers, so I'm just going to cup my mic. It's probably going to make it sound a little bit tinny, but apologies in advance. Let's try to push on. This is a little volunteer tomato that's popped up, which is nice. And then I've got some spaghetti squash in here. It hasn't been loving life. It's not going so good. We do have a water leak just through there where you can see that hose, and I don't think it's liking how much water is coming through. We've got our zucchinis, and we're getting so many zucchinis. I can see another big one in there I need to get out of there. And then another plant we've got here is tomatillo, which is a food, but I do love to use it in bouquets. It grows beautiful little like balloon fruits on it, and they look really cute in bouquets. So these just pop up as volunteers. We grew it 1 year, and now it self-seeds everywhere. And wherever they pop up, there's another one here. I just let them grow We use them for salsa. Moroni's Mexican, but we also love them in a flower bouquet. Moving along, we've got some spring onions, which haven't been doing much. I think it's been too hot for them. And then one of my favourite foods, the little yellow button squashes. And I did see one. There's one there. Just started. That one will be ready maybe in another day. So I can't wait. I love them. I love eating those. I just love them steamed with some butter and salt, and they're amazing. My mouth waters thinking about it. And then we've got our tomatoes. I've got 12 tomato plants in because I love to make my own tomato sauce, and I like to make enough of it to get us through the winter. So I hope that they will produce lots and lots of tomatoes. You can see they've got tomatoes coming on. But one issue we're having is tomatoes really love the heat, and this summer hasn't been as hot as predicted, and it hasn't been as consistent. The temperatures are going up and down, and tomatoes really hate that. They'd be much better in a grow tunnel. And I did have them in my hothouse, but they just got absolutely infiltrated by bugs and pests, and they became inedible. I had to throw them out. So that didn't work. And I think because the bugs got stuck in there, like the different flying insects, and I don't know, it just didn't work out. So now I'm trying to grow them out in the field, and I'm really hoping that we'll actually get enough tomatoes, because I really want to make the tomato sauce. It's a ketchup recipe. And the reason I like to make it is because I use honey rather than sugar. It's a beautiful recipe. I love it. If enough people are interested, I'll pop a video up of that. It's so good, but I like to make a whole year's worth, so we've got it all through the winter up until we've got tomatoes again next season. Final row in plot 1 is another veggie row, and we've got some rock melons here, some cantaloupe. James planted those in, so he's excited. I actually can't remember what this was. I think it might have been a honeydew melon. Cosmos, which has been chewed on by, I'm supposing, rabbits, but the Cosmos hasn't been doing very well. We had our last frost. I put the Cosmos in, and then another frost hit and it killed it all off. And then by the time I got the next lot of Cosmos seed ready to pop out in the field, it was too hot. It just then went from very cold to very hot, and we missed that window for the Cosmos to sort of put its roots down and establish itself and grow big enough to deal with the heat. So now these little tiny ones aren't coping, because even though it's a cooler summer than normal, it is too hot for the Cosmos. So I've just left it there. It may take off at the end of summer, depending what our weather does. If it's nice conditions for the Cosmos, it will go crazy again. I am going to plant some more seed and see if I can just get a nice little, maybe a month of picking Cosmos, because it's one of my favorite flowers. Oh, this is what I wanted. One of the things I wanted to show you. This is cotton. And I don't think I've ever seen what a cotton seedling looks like, but that's the cotton seedling. Isn't it interesting? We have a little bit more of it planted in here where the water leak is, because cotton really requires a lot of water. And as you can see, these ones are doing a lot better. They're a lot taller. I need to thin it out a little bit, but I am interested to see what will happen. I don't know if these ones are going to get enough sun to be happy. But rest of this row, I've got nasturtiums in there. It's too hot for them, but I've left them there. They may take off in autumn. I have planted some beans. They'll just grow up the old sunflower stems. We've got some Aztec corn from Moroni, and then some more beans. And that is plot 1. We're going to move on to plot 2, which has had some issues. I don't know if you can hear this because of my mic, but we've got these cockatoos around, and they're black cockatoos. They're kind of specific to this area, and they're being so noisy right now. This row is amaranth. We've got the velvet curtains, and it is being eaten. Look. Some of them are. It did start to bud up, and I just can't see one that's got the bud in it. I saw one the other day. Anyway, it's a beautiful draping variety. And then we've got hot biscuit. It's sort of, oh no. Moroni's going to do lawn mowing while I try and do this. He's waving. We'll just have to like deal with it. Hot biscuit. And it is like a sort of a burnt sort of, well, I think like a cinnamon sort of colour. And then we've got Coral Fountain, and it's a beautiful corally colour, like a pinky. It's not doing so well because I haven't got to this row to weed it yet. And obviously it doesn't love the weeds. We have some Orangium, the sea holly, and it is kind of finishing up. I'm still picking some heads, but they are starting to dry off and they'll go to seed. This does just reproduce prolifically to the point where I've got it even over in this bed. It's sort of a little bit too happy here. I'm having trouble trying to keep it out, and it's got a taproot, so it's actually quite hard to get it out of the ground, to get rid of it once you've got it there. And it's growing over here and it's stunting the corn on this end. There's lists of companion planting that plants and flowers and plants that will grow really well together, and there's lists of plants not to grow together. Sometimes you just realize, you find out for yourself what will and will not grow well together. Sea holly will not grow well with corn. The corn suffers, it's just stunting its growth, and I can't keep it out of that I can't keep it out of that bed. So I guess that's a little warning with sea holly. If it's got the potential to take off in your area, it can really be a pain in the butt. Plus it's very spiky. The only reason I'm growing it at this point, to be honest, is the bees absolutely love it, and the pollinators and the butterflies, they just absolutely love it. So it's really nice to have it here for that reason. And it's nice to have a little blue pop of colour in a bouquet sometimes. Row 7, I've put in some Queen Line zinnias, and it is the most sporadic germination. Then we've got some Bennery's Giants here. These are doing fine. The Bennery's Giants are doing okay. I've been through and I've snipped them all, and they're growing their side shoots. I mean, they are growing, but the Queen Lime and the Queen Lime Red and the Queen Lime Orange basically didn't grow. I've since put some little chili plants in. I don't know if it's going to be hot enough for them to do anything this season, but they're in because you just never know. This row was a test bed for feverfew, and we'd left it for a couple of years to see how long it would take between cycles of flowers, and it took too long, which is why we've sort of discovered the cutting technique for the feverfew, and it's working so much better. But it did mean we ripped this row out. Trials finished, and I have just sown out sunflowers. So I've got radiance from here to that stick, and then from that stick to the rake I've got some, what do I have? It wasn't Royal Velvet. I'll put it up on the screen. I can't remember what I planted. And as you can see, I haven't really got labels on things, have I? One thing we do try to do is, once we find a variety of flower that we really love, we stick to it. So then if you see yellow sunflowers out here, they will be Radiance sunflowers, because we love that variety. We are having trouble with the seed this year. I don't know what is going on, but it just seems every time we plant seed out, we've done it twice now, it's not germinating properly. But then there was another row, it just didn't pop up. And this is another row of Radiance. Let's see what happens there. But Moroni's convinced the seed is no good this season. So I hope he's wrong, because otherwise we're just not going to have many sunflowers, which is going to suck. This was one of the first successions of sunflowers. I think it was the first succession. And we were growing it out just to get some really big seed heads, which you can see we have. Sun's about to pop over that tree. And then below it, I've undersowed it with zinnia, and they grow really well together. It doesn't stunt, neither of them stunt each other's growth, which is really, really good. These are the Cinderella zinnias, and I really, really, really want to get those beautiful little like bobbly flower heads with the big round centers that look so cute. But the plants seem to be flowering very, very short, which I'll cut those heads out and try and get the plant to put energy back into the plant to get it a bit taller before it flowers. But zinnias really like the heat as well, and it hasn't really been that hot, so it does suck. The way I've been able to grow them under the sunflowers is taking all these lower leaves off so that the sun gets through to the zinnias. And then at the end of this row we have Rudbeckia, which I just wanted to try. I haven't deadheaded or picked it or anything, so some of those petals are looking pretty shabby. I just wanted to see what I thought of it, and I do love the look of it. I love these beautiful ball heads. They look so gorgeous. But as a cut flower, I find it's got a very, very short vase life. I like the look of it in a garden just to look at. I don't like it as a cut flower. And I think there's better alternatives for a yellow flower with that sort of look for better vase life and just a less shabby sort of look. Small sunflowers being one of them, they're going to last much longer in a vase, and when they open up, their petals stay stable, whereas these do not. So I mean, I want to say I won't grow it again, but I probably will, because I do like the look of it in amongst some other flowers, but I wouldn't be growing it for a cut flower again. If you like the look of these trellises, they're grown from well, I guess they were, but they're made from grapevines with, and you can use whatever stick you want. I have a video on how to make those. It's up on the channel, so check that out if you want to make some. I think they're so cute. In amongst here we've got Lab Lab. It will eventually just take off really fast and then want to take over, but you can see the Rudbeckia does give this really cute pop of colour, like in sort of a drift across there. I do really like that about it. More dahlias! We've got Brennan, and I think Brennan is stunning. The colours are just beautiful, like that pink. It's almost like a purpley pink. I don't know, like an iridescence almost. I love it. It's so pretty. And then we've got a whole heap. It goes all the way to, where does it end? Here. So Bracken Palomino. It's another really nice sort of, you know, in the orange tones, a peach coloured flower. Really nice big heads. I like it as a cut flower. It's really nice. If it blows open too far, it does have a bit of an ugly centre though. So let me see if I can find one. Ah, no, I deadheaded the other day, so probably we're not going to see one now. That little bud's going to get stuck there. It does have a bit of an ugly centre. That's the only thing I don't like about Bracken Palomino. And then these gorgeous big dahlias. I don't know what the name is. I just call it an orange ball. And it is quite a nice orange colour, like a really, it's like a clean orange. A really pretty colour, really nice in bouquets. And then the last one in this row is the salmon ball. And we found an egg. We don't know whose egg it is, but it's here. And it's still warm. We just rotate it. So I don't know what's going to happen. Hope it's not a snake egg, because it could be. It's pretty. They've got nice stems on these ones too, the salmon ball. So this is just our row of sort of orange tones, and then this is our row of red tones, and this is the row that we're growing out for Valentine's Day. I'm just going to go find my hat. Oh, that's better. The sun's finally popped out. Hello, it's future Phaedra. I'm just editing, and I just want to make an announcement. Saturday the 27th of January at 8 a.m, that's Australian time, in Australian Eastern Standard Time. So for some of you that time will change slightly, and for some of you it'll be Friday night. I'm hosting a Google Meet. So it's a video call that anyone can come along to. It's an experiment to see what happens, but if you'd like to participate, let me know. I will put up the link to that video a couple of hours beforehand, so early that morning or early that afternoon, depending where you are. I'll pop a link up in the community tab so that you can click that and join that chat. The other thing I wanted to say is a very big thank you to two people who have bought me a coffee, which I'm using for star pickets for the flower field, which I'm showing you right now. So that's Marie, thank you so much, that's so kind of you, and also Lisa, I really appreciate it, thank you. Okay, as I was saying, this red row for Valentine's Day, we want to cut back on how many roses we have to buy, because the roses that we like to use for Valentine's Day are imported. They're from Ecuador, which isn't great, but we've just found that they, I don't want to say better quality, but we did have a problem with other roses rotting from the inside out, and it's expensive to buy roses for Valentine's Day. As a florist, our wholesaler won't even tell us what price they are until we get our bill. So, and we know that the price of roses, they pop it up for Valentine's Day. And it's a supply and demand thing. You know, it's kind of like, I guess it's stopping people from just absolutely over ordering with the plan that they can throw it out at the end and then others missing out, I think. I'm sure they're also like profiting off it a bit, everyone. That's not just our wholesaler, it's everywhere. But we just would prefer, like, there's some beautiful red dahlias, and our customers, we open up rose orders early on the website, and people really never pre-order them. If they're roadside, they don't even care if they get them. The only rose product that really sells roadside for us, like that they specifically ask for, is the single rose in a tube. So we will get some for those. But other than that, our plan is to grow red dahlias for Valentine's Day. Hot shot. Then we've got a red ball that I don't know the name of, but it's like a deeper red ball. And then we've got first prize, which isn't a full red, but it's got sort of yellow, pink. It's kind of got warm tones through it, and it goes with a lot of red flowers. So I have it in here because at Valentine's Day, not everybody's looking for red. I don't know what they're doing, but they're jumping between the trees all around me and they're so noisy. This row is another row that we double up on, that we interplant with. So we have Luxbar, which is finished and it's going to seed. I'm just waiting for these seed pods to open and drop into the field, like into the row, and then we come through and cut them out or pull them out. And then the second plant that we have in here is Sweet William. And the benefit to planting it alongside the Luxbar is the Luxbar will flower first, and it flowers for a really long time. And then as sort of in the middle of the Luxbar season, the Sweet William starts to pop up. And because it's sort of competing for light, it pushes it up with really long stems. I mean, look at that Sweet William stem. Oh, this one wants some showtime too. Those cockatoos. This row is just looking a little bit ratty at the moment, but that's the reason. There's a purpose, and these seed pods are about to open, and then thousands of seeds are going to pop out, and that's how we self-seed this. We haven't planted Luxbar for like 3 years. One of the things that I did with this row when I was going through and picking and using the Luxbar, any of the colours that I didn't have a lot of, so the pink Luxbar, there wasn't much of it in this row. I didn't pick much of it because I wanted to leave it here to go to seed. And you also, when you're wanting to self-seed, use a plant to self-seed, you want to leave the absolute most beautiful, best stems out here to self-seed. So it's really tempting because you also want to use those in bouquets and you want to use them for the work that you're doing. But try not to, if you're going to let rose just self-seed, try not to cut those stems. And then if you really want to get pedantic about it, any of the stems that don't look so good, cut them out before things start to dry off and go to seed, where you can still see that they're short or they're not double heads, they're singles. Like, go through and cut all of that out, and then you leave the rest to seed, because the seed is going to replicate from that parent plant. So you want the parent plant to be the best quality you can get it. So sometimes your bed maintenance, it's not just like planting, watering, cutting, and then tilling over your bed. Sometimes you can kind of utilize the bed in a way where it's so much less work. The Sweet William's also going to self-seed, but I need to go through and cut off all those really short stems. But I don't mind if it doesn't, because we just plant it out again next season. And then we know that we're getting, I want more pinks, but we then know what we're getting. We already know it grows well with the Luxbar. This is Tansy, and that is Tansy, and we have a problem with Tansy. We grew it one year. I think it was this row. It might have been like a half row of Tansy, but it really, really, really takes over. It took us a while to actually get rid of it, and we're seeing it pop up again in places. It's here. I don't want it in this row, so I will be coming through and pulling it out. There's a few pieces of it through there. This row has a few dahlias. These were the only 4 that I purchased this season. And then, well, Marshmallow's finally grown. It's doing okay. Thelma Maud, which I really want because it's a dinner plate, is struggling a lot. Which one was this one? Something gold, cloth of gold. Tiny. It's in a bit of a shaded area there. I really need to get rid of that tansy, to be honest. The strawberry I've lost. When I was weeding this row, that tuber accidentally pulled it out, and I don't think it was viable. It really didn't have much on it. I don't think it's going to... I kind of feel like at this point, if it hasn't started to grow, it's probably not. It wasn't rotten, so that's one positive. I'll just leave it in there and see what happens. Maybe it will still come up, I hope. We were gifted all of these dahlias, so I kind of feel like, even though I didn't purchase many this year, I am going to get a surprise about some more dahlias, and I'm really happy about it. So we've got Serenade, Little Peaches, Tuscany, Pure Bliss. I need to come through and rewrite these labels. Nugget. Oh, I'm really excited about that because it's a dark one. Florally Pendulum. AF Peach. I can't remember what the AF was. And AF Sunrise. Forgot. Earl Juliet. Cornell, and Helene. So that's going to be very exciting. And here I've got some pincushion flowers and a random dahlia. It's a Serenade one. So I've got the burgundy, the white, and the pink. I loved the burgundy. I mean, I love them all, but I've got more seed going in for the burgundy. They just take a really long time to flower. And then the marigolds. This is Moroni's favourite. He said it reminds him of Mexico, which of course it would. And especially, you know, when they celebrate Dia de los Muertos and other occasions, marigolds are everywhere. It just lines the streets. So that's sort of one of the scents of Mexico, and he just loves it. Okay, we're on to our third plot. First one was Nigella, and it is dying off. Ooh, the seed pods are kind of mushy, but because it's been rainy. We're letting that self-seed, then we're going to weed it and put some nutrients on the soil, and it should self-seed. It's another one that once you plant it, you usually don't have to plant it again. And I have found once the seed starts to self-seed itself, when the plant's sort of replicating itself at that point, I've found those years are much better. So the first year it's kind of just growing it to get the seed going, and then we let it self-sow, and then it starts to produce really nice plump flowers and nice tall stems. So that's sort of a work in progress. We had to replant it this year, and that will, fingers crossed, become its permanent row. One of the feverfew successions, this one's finished. I did take some cuttings There's some random little stems left in through there, but other than that, it's ready to come out. And this whole plot, the soil's not so good, so we're going to start working on the soil in there. This row was our kale, and this has been the most amazing. It's the Crane series. It just, look at that. It's the middle of summer and I'm still picking kale from this row. It's almost finished. I've got a couple of heads left. Some are way too short. Well, actually that one fell over. You can see its stem. And then that's our sunflowers. They're just finishing up. Well, they've well and truly finished up. So this row is ready to come, well, I shouldn't say ready to come out. It's almost ready to come out. I'll pick those last few kales and then we will prep that bed so they look like these. This bed also had terrible soil. We've plumped it all up. We've added extra to it and we've got our chrysanthemums in it. We've actually been doing pretty good with timing this year, except in some small areas we were running behind with what we needed to get done. And one of them was the bed for these chrysanthemums. So they've lived in pots for up until now, which is really too late to leave it into a pot. We're hoping that now they're in the ground they'll take off. We just need some heat, which we're not getting. Hopefully they'll take off though, and then we'll trim them back soon, so that then hopefully we get really good flush of flowers for Mother's Day. That is the plan. If not, at least the plants are in the ground now. We can look after them and have them for next year, but we were hoping to have some flowers off there for this Mother's Day. This row is just a row I'm in the process of fixing up. That's just the soil that was already there. You can see all of our rocks. Every single time it rains, this is what happens. It just exposes more and more rocks. Our soil is incredibly rocky. It's a little bit frustrating. We're constantly going through and trying to get the rocks out, especially as they come to the surface. It's just buckets and buckets of rocks. It's very tedious work. So while we've got a natural windbreak and we don't need to stake anything, we use that time up picking up rocks. And I feel like it's probably a worse problem to have all these rocks. So anyway, this bed is getting, oh, here's the wind again, is getting some nutrients put through. And we're prepping it ready for, I'm going to pop the cool flowers up here. So we'll have, excuse me, the Nigella row, which will just, I've explained that. So we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 beds ready for the cool flowers to go in autumn. This bed is also semi-prepped for the cool flowers. I've actually got some of the root veg got in it already. I've got the carrots, Swedes, and I've put potatoes in because potatoes are really good at prepping the soil. This row is terrible. It's another finished off, what do you call it? Feverfew row. That little end bit I'll show you in a minute, but it's all cut back. We just need to dig it out and we'll till this. We're going to add in manure. We're going to add in some more soil, which is what we need to do with all these rows back here. And then they will just sit until autumn and then we'll plant out into them. So, oh, and the sugarcane mulch, it's really nice as well. I want to try to get some worm activity in the soil and try and get it really nice, ready for autumn. This is another way to grow your feverfew. When it's finished, you cut it back like this. You can cut it back like that, and it does reshoot. Final row is veggies again, which I'm kind of using as for the flower bouquets, because these beautiful little white pumpkins are going in bouquets. That's my little secret that I'm now telling thousands of people. Shh. So we've got those, we've got the beans. They're growing up in amongst those pumpkins and they're coming up. They're just starting to come up. We've got, there's lettuce in there, but I think the rabbit's got it. Little bit of volunteer baby's breath. So there's a few here, and then we've got radishes in here as well. So a bit of a mix. All of those plants grew really well together, but yeah, they're just kind of like huddled into that row. Then over the back, we've got our pumpkin and watermelon patch. And the Moon and Stars watermelon is growing so beautiful. Look at that. It's one of the most beautiful varieties. Look at the beautiful spots on the leaves, looks like stars, and then the watermelon itself gets these beautiful little stars and the moon. I just love it because it is sort of ethereal. It is so cute. So I've got a few. Then I've got a Charleston grey up here. I've got a few of those plants, a few of the moon and stars. There's another little one growing here. So they're just getting ready. And then I've got some pumpkins in this area, not doing as well as the watermelons. Oh, it's getting really cold and windy. And I have sweet potato to go in, but I think I've left it too late for it to actually grow this season. However, I'm going to go through the motions anyway, because I've been sprouting it and I've got the slips ready and they're ready to go in, because I want to build those skills so I've got them for next season, even though doing it this season is probably not going to result in any food. But that's just something to think about. If you're hoping to get something in and it's not happening, but you're learning the skills that it takes for the next season, it's still worth doing it. So just persist with that. This is how everything looks from the back. I mean, the back of everything doesn't usually look so good, does it? We've got a massive concrete pile here that we need to get moved. This fence, when we get the fencing in, won't be there. The fence will be up across the back here. This season we didn't expand very much. We had the beds in that you've just seen were already here, and we decided to just work on what we had this year. Get this plot in plot 3, get the soil really nice, try and perfect, well not perfect, but try and improve the way that we were doing the things we were already doing, trial a couple of new plants like Rebecca. And it was enough work for us, especially since things changed and it's now me doing almost all of the work out in the field. It's I'm out here every day. So it's almost a little bit too much work for one person. This is our 4th season. It's just a really slow process, and it's been 4 hands building this whole thing. So it's kind of been an example that you can do this. Just start with what you've got, start small. But I've just remembered, I need to show you that plant that acts as a grass. So this is yarrow. And if you plant it in the ground and keep mowing over it, it creates this beautiful lush grass. We're just trialing its growth rate at the moment. If it grows faster than the actual grass, it may not be a good move, because I'll show you what it looks like if it gets too long. So that's kind of the height it's getting to, sort of fairly high and very dense. And then of course it gets the flower spikes on it. So if we missed some mowings and it got to this point, that wouldn't be very nice to walk on. But yeah, that's an alternative. We're just trialing it out to see how that goes. Hope you enjoyed this tour. Hope you'll join us next time here on the farm. I put out a vlog style video every Saturday. A little bit different to today's video. It's sort of more of an entertaining, edutainment sort of thing. If you want to check those out, if you haven't already, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment if you like, subscribe if you'd like to see more. See you next time. I'm Phaedra, I forgot to say that.